Okay, now I'm live. Can I see? Have so some attendees have joined. Should we wait for 2-3 minutes to start?
Yeah, sure. We can do that.
Okay.
So it's 12:31.
Yeah. Maybe we'll start by 12:33.
No problem. So actually, takes time also to join.
Hmm.
Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Hi, Priyanka. How are you?
I'm good, ma'am. Good to see you here.
Yeah, yeah. It's so nice to see you.
So, ma'am, how is it going?
Yeah, I hope you all are safe and all
Yes,
back home.
yes.
Good.
Okay, let me start. It's already 12 and a lot of participants, more than half have joined out of the registered ones. So should we start? Karnu Priyanka, मैं start?
हाँ जी, कर लो।
Okay. A very good afternoon to everyone. On behalf of the team of Society and Media MOOCs course, an initiative of the University Grants Commission under the SWAYAM platform, I welcome Dr. Mausumi Bhattacharya and all our dear learners to our special lecture series. The special lecture series with the subject matter expert has been first of its kind initiative to foster a deep connect and relationship with our learners. Thus, I request all learners to take full advantage of the special series and encourage them to participate in both the events. The session will be divided in two parts, where first Dr. Mausumi Bhattacharya will present a lecture on media, gender, and society for about 40 to 45 minutes, and the last 15 to 20 minutes will be dedicated to question and answer session. Now I'll introduce the speaker. Dr. Mausumi Bhattacharya is Associate Professor at Center for Journalism and Mass Communication, Vishwabharati University, West Bengal. Dr. Bhattacharya's area of specialization is audience research, audiovisual media, new media, and gender studies. She has been part of the research projects on media research and gender development. She has been the paper coordinator for Gender, Media and Society under Media and Communication Studies in EPG Pathshala, an OER project sponsored by UGC. She has also been a subject matter expert for MOOCs, Society and Media course and has contributed in the design and development of the course modules under the topic Media, Gender and Society. I welcome you, ma'am, and now you can start your slides and lecture. Ma'am,
Yeah, I'm
So that
just
maximize how do I? Okay.
thank you, Survi, for your kind introduction, generous introduction, and thank you to Dr. Durgesh Tripathi and the team of Swayam MOOCs, the society and media platform. It's actually a very innovative idea, like to reach out to all the participants and to the attendees of the course, like in such a manner. So this is, I think, it's absolutely new in India. So thank you all, and of course for having me on board. So today, what I'll be doing is that. So I'll be talking on, of course, about the course Media, Gender, and Society. So this is something actually which is happening. We all know this how this gender, society, and media course is important under the umbrella of society and media. So actually, I tried to you know uh, you know just to introduce the gender and society connection and the media connection with this, and so actually decoding all the facets of media, gender, and society. So in that way, I'll be trying to make you understand the interrelationship between these three, and of course, what are the pros and cons of this studies. You can ask me question after my session. So let me begin with my presentation. So as we are talking about media, gender, and society, so over the years, it has increasingly been indicated by studies that gender difference to an extent is an outcome of thoughts and perceptions than reality based on hard facts. Research evidence underlines significant similarities between men and women across different domains, which were explored by researchers. Put in another way, this means men and women exhibit a likeness across different segments, which outnumbers segments wherein they display dissimilarities. This stands in contrast to our generally held perception about notable difference between the genders. This takes shape from common belief about men and women hailing from specific and divergent gender universes, which gets reflected in their thoughts and behaviors across different situations and experiences. Such outlook aligns with traditions and customs and interprets gender divergence in a way which confirms such beliefs and ideas. Wherever researcher Hyde, post examination of 46 analyses, had concluded that differences between men and women were noticeable across only 15% distributions, while similarities were noted for 85% distributions. This implies across majority parameters, there is alignment between behavior and responses of men and women, with dissimilarities occurring in limited number of parameters. Though such limited quantum of divergence should not be construed as insignificant, its strength certainly does not support the perception about existence of profound differences between the genders. The Hyde study further indicated wherever gender differences were noticeable, the existing social context or situation was also vital. This underlines the impact of social systems and situations on formulation of visible differences between behavior and response of men and women. Let me move on to the next slide. The role of social environment and context on gender differences thus clearly transpires from this specific study. A pertinent question arising at this juncture, that what shapes what which like such social systems and environment which leads to perceptions about gender segregation. Bandura and Bassi point out to mass media being instrumental in shaping and sustaining such outlooks and thoughts. In addition to mass media, information received from parents, relatives, and friends also contribute to formation of understanding about society and behavior of genders within it. Both the researchers, Bandura and Bassi, held in combination these two compelling forces dictate how we finally perceive difference between men and women to be existent around us. This is termed as pervasive cultural modeling of gender roles. This is very important. Earlier, Marcus and Nurius had pointed to presence of the hope and feared selves throughout life among us. These entities are nourished by our understanding of social, cultural, and historical perspectives and symbols, representations, and models offered by media. Our societal experiences also pour into the hoped and feared selves. Cumulatively, such findings underline the vitality and criticality of media in shaping our perception about gender discrimination and segregation when the logic behind such action stands on thin ice. Manner in which the female gender is projected to us by the media regulates how we interpret them and how we interpret ourselves individually. Latter of the two being important for determination of points of difference and the holistic social impact of perceiving males to be notably different from females. Relevant to mention that such notions of difference is not restricted to the two traditionally known and acknowledged genders. Societal learning, including media representation, has segregated and victimized the third gender also. Within the patriarchal social systems, members of the transgender community also have been discriminated against for a prolonged period of time. Researcher Matthias notes about prevailing frustration among thousands of third gender members at the manner in which they are represented by the media. Whether done intentionally or otherwise, media's portrayal of transgender, individual, and community only reaffirms already held stereotypes about the life and living of a trans person. Herein, we explored the relation between media, the genders, and society in continuity of gender bias and fallouts. Let me move on to my next slide. It's a very common word or phrase we know, stereotyping of gender. Let me just discuss a few things about it. Office of the High Commissioner of United Nations Human Rights, we know them in the name of OHCHR. They define stereotyping as the notion prompting association of certain attributes and features with members of specific sections of society or groups. Comprehended in relation to gender, this means impression about some characteristics and features having strong association with men or women and hence should be represented or performed by them. OHCHR 2014 study cites existing perceptions of women being vulnerable and affectionate compared to males as examples of gender stereotyping. Drawing on the social role theory, Cohen and Egei explain, gender stereotyping sharing links with the skewed distribution of tasks between the genders. Researchers mention for long division of labor has had a gender influence. Allocation of roles took into consideration gender of the individual. Such trend has been observed in all society, socially and economically variant societies actually. For a considerable period of time, women have been majorly assigned activities related to caretaking. Taking care of households, taking care of children, and taking care of family has been their paramount responsibilities. For those who manage to venture beyond domestic walls. Jobs in the service sector and people roles have been on the offering. Women employees have noticeable presence in hospitality, aviation, education, such sectors. They are assessed better placed in dealing with other people and hence are preferred over males. Let me move on to my next slide. So here, men on the other hand are mostly absorbed in manufacturing and production related activities and professions which are immensely competitive, like sales. Such demarcation of roles in society and hinge to gender considerations stimulates inferences which gives rise to stereotyping of gender. Basis these divisions, men are considered to be efficient in controlling or assuming charge of things and activities, while women are considered to be more community builders, being efficient in forming relationships. It was Bacon who had first put forward these concepts and described as basic motivators of our behavior. Subsequently, different studies have sought to bring forward the different perspectives of agency and communality. The former interpreted as masculinity, competency, and instrumentality, and the latter as femininity, warmth, and expressiveness. Among these, schools, agency, and communality have been assumed to be lying at the foundation of gender stereotype. Highlighting examples of stereotyping in real life, researcher Sartori mentions plight and social position of women across patriarchal societies. I'm talking about, a considerable amount of years actually we have been watching this. They are considered to be just members of any family, devoid of any position of importance within the unit. I'm not generalizing, but in most of the cases, they are not consulted on key familial issues or matters and rarely are entrusted with decision-making authority. They are mere listeners and observers of what has been decided, irrespective of whether it is in their favor or otherwise. Men look upon them as mediums of procreation, subjected to frequent pregnancies and childbirth. This adversely impacts women's health and sometimes results in deaths. Participants, actually here I'm talking about the entire country, entire society, right? So we should consider all the sections of our society. Researcher Sartori also draws attention to unpaid labor of female members of the families who are never extended any financial benefit in lieu of all other efforts every day, which actually, things are being taken into consideration these days. Let us see what happens next. Additionally, women are never involved in financial matters of families and are not provided the opportunity to participate in such a discussion in many cases. In cases where women get involved in activities linked to income generation, they are expected to obediently hand over their entire earning to male members of the family. I'm again saying in most of the cases. This stems from the notion that women are not prudent in financial dealings, which is considered to be predominantly a male passion. It is up to the males to decide whether any portion of the income should be allocated for the female earner or not. These provide insights into stereotyping of the female gender, which has perpetuated for generations. Females have traditionally been perceived as fit only for domestic duties and lacking in education and cognitive abilities. As such, they are kept confined and under the guidance and supervision of male members. This is why their opinions are never sought and neither are they consulted on financial and other matters, as I'm again repeating in most of the cases. Researchers think places the onus of ingraining such stereotyping in young minds on teachers and parents. Though done unknowingly, they pass on held beliefs about gender bias and thus direct their kids and wards towards a specific line of thinking. One way this transpires, encouraging female students to opt for a subject like home science, which is considered to be feminine. Male students, on the other hand, are advised to choose subjects like science or maths, which are deemed to be more masculine. Singh again points out to the expectation of boys performing better than girls in mathematics. Though such perceptions are being challenged and proven wrong by increasing number of girl students, yet they are described as girls who are as good as boys in solving mathematical problems. This strengthens the stereotype via demarcation of masculine and feminine territories. Migration of the former to area of the latter is vehemently discouraged, while the vice versa is accorded critical acceptance. Utilizing girls are as good as boys in maths, a Stanford University study notes 71% participants opining boys having higher mathematical skills than girls. Though respondents rated the above statement as unbiased, yet they remained convinced about male skills in calculations. This led researchers to conclude, notwithstanding women progress in academics and profession related to science, technology, engineering, mathematics, their inferiority to male competences is accepted and entrenched. And media has a pivotal contribution in prolonging the existence of gender bias in the society, unfortunately. So, I will be discussing about the media and gender bias now. An in-circulation advertisement of a leading detergent brand aired on all leading Indian channels. A housewife is shown proposing to her husband to purchase a big house. Her husband responds saying, though effort and labor is increased, a commensurate rise in pay is not happening, and hence buying a new house is not economically feasible. To this, her mother-in-law remarks, even if educated, women should never try to tell their husbands what has to be done. Objective of her opinion is to simply promote her daughter-in-law to leave financial and familial decision-making to the male members. Who knows best what has to be done and when? And in another advertisement, cine star Akshay Kumar is shown counseling housewives on how to keep toilets clean and hygienic. He advises them not to use detergent for such purposes, but use specialized products made for the purpose. Both of these narratives denote how gender stereotyping is carried forward by media. Educated women playing second fiddle to male members of the family comes across from the first case. The mother-in-law does not consider her daughter-in-law judicious enough to decide when to buy a new house. Given that women remain confined to domestic perimeter, lack of experience and exposure to prevailing external conditions is perceived to rob them of decision-making prudence. In the second instance, the all-pervading knowledge of male members in magnified imply. They know how best to take care of the house, even though they do not attend to household chores on regular basis. In this area too, knowledge of women housekeepers fall short, and they need to rely on inputs received from males to learn how best to keep their homes clean and free on infections and diseases. Here, researcher Slasher draws attention to a study conducted by researchers at Rutgers, which explored the relation between gender, occupation, and this portrayal by different media channels. The study examined different pictures of men and women which have been in circulation on popular platforms like Twitter, Wikipedia, and Shutterstock, and also the New York Times. Why I'm mentioning, I'm just coming into that. The pictures are then tabulated vis-a-vis data made available by the Bureau of Labor Statistics regarding gender representation. Slasher reports images of women majorly showed them as nurses and librarians, directly corresponding to the notion of them being efficient caregivers and organizers. In technological fields and applications, use of images of women was seldom done. Images of men, on the other side, depicted their involvement in technology and manufacturing activities, wherein too female presence was minimal. While degree of bias was found to be higher in Twitter, higher degree of equal representation was evaluated for the New York Times and Shutterstock in 2020. Yet the study also highlighted a gradual change with increasing pictures being made available of men in nursing profession and women executing engineering assignments. Data also revealed an increase in number of photographs showing women in male-dominated occupations between 2018 and 2019. Basis this, the study concluded that some degree of correction of gender representation is being undertaken by the media. Though such a shift is a welcome change, it does not discount the fact that dehumanization and objectification of women is still being propagated by media. Dehumanization, we need to understand this word. This is very important actually. Dehumanization is explained by Bhattacharyya as the perception that certain individuals or members of certain groups are not human and do not possess qualities associated with humanity simply because they are different from others who are considered to be human. Dehumanization therefore magnifies differences between the two groups or between two individuals, and in doing so justifies why specific individuals or groups cannot be considered as human. Such an effort invariably focuses on specific features or attributes which is present in some groups and individuals, but not among others. The former are thus considered human and the latter not human. It must, however, be noted that dehumanization originates from sociological process and is therefore flexible and diverse. People and their relations are taken into account in reference to different time periods, which gives rise to the possibility of something considered human today becoming dehumanized tomorrow. Even the vice versa can hold true. Periodic alteration of the subject of dehumanization is therefore not entirely impossible. That women have been dehumanized comes across from different historical accounts pertaining to different timelines. When this is viewed in reference to position of women in society historically, the reality of how women have been subjected to gender bias and segregation over ages presents itself prominently. Dehumanization of women can be traced back to the Middle Ages, when the practice of their immolation on grounds of suspicion for child lifting or witchcraft was common occurrence. Stoning of women on charges of adultery in Middle Eastern nations has also been recorded in different accounts. The well-known tradition of sati, which was banned by the colonial regime, stimulated by protests of Renaissance leaders of Bengal, also reminds of the inhuman treatment meted out to women in society during such times. Knowing well that women will not be able to match the physical strength of men, knowing that they cannot unite as effectively as men, and knowing that societal marginalization has left them weakened, male members found it easier to consistently perpetuate such crimes for decades at end. Those rising in support of women's rights back then were subjected to similar marginalization and dehumanization, probably with the intention of setting an example and preempting the possibility of any concerted protest movement in future. So then one form of dehumanization is objectification, which is very important, which involves viewing someone as an object of gratification. Trenfeld et al. Further clarified objectification involving dissecting an individual into different parts, with each part subsequently satisfying specific interests of the observer. In other words, objectification is also about viewing an individual as an amalgamation of different features and attributes, each such feature or attribute satisfying a specific need of the observer. Nussbaum identified 7 components of objectification, which includes very important 7 components: inertia, violability, instrumentality, propriety, fungibility, impinging of autonomy, and non-provision of subjectivity. Inertia implies the object not having power to act on its own, and neither any capability of assuming power to act sometime in the future. Inertia is thus perceived to constant denominator. From inertia flows violability, which implies that the object can be violated as desired, and since the object is inert, it cannot prevent or stop such violation. So inertia aids such violation. Instrumentality makes the object an instrument via which others can fulfill their purposes and objectives. These two is linked to inertia, which will prevent the object from being treated as an instrument. In a sense, this aspect of instrumentality is also related to violability. Fungibility puts the object in a position wherein it can be exchanged with a similar object. Property justifies the ownership of the object by others and gives owner the right to exchange or sell or loan out the object to others as is deemed fit. Denying autonomy robs the object of any freedom to take decisions or act on their free will and non-extension of subjectivity. Assumes non-existence of any emotion or feeling or experience of the object. Thus, objectification places individuals within absolute control of others, who can act with them in any manner they want with complete tampering of their rights, feelings, decision-making abilities and capabilities. Subjecting women to such objectification by media has been well documented by different researchers pertaining to different timelines. A dominant objectification of women in sexual objectification, which is rampant across cinema, advertising, and other forms of media programs. The myth of sex sells has been used over time by different advertising professionals to promote objectification of women and thereby ingrain into minds of viewers unattainable dominance of what beauty is all about. In this regard, sociologist Esther had opined that the basic requirement of an advertising campaign is to stimulate our brain into reacting. And this can best be achieved by sexual advertising, as it is able to titillate the emotional areas within us by appealing to gratification of our basic needs and transgressing taboo areas. In keeping with this line of thought, women have been portrayed in a sexualized way in advertising campaigns related to alcohol, automobiles, clothing, perfume, such brands. Message of such creatives are common. If you own the product, women will rule over you. A link between ownership of the product and women is thus creatively indicated as subtly established. Researcher Maheshwari draws attention to advertising campaigns of different fast-moving consumer goods items, which to objectifies women to draw potential consumer attention. Advertisement of hair and skincare products intended for male users feature women casting appreciative and sensual looks on the well-groomed man. A case in point is advertisement of the chocolate-flavored body perfume of a reputed personal care product manufacturer, which feature several women who gets attracted to the boy using the perfume. This, according to researcher Maheshwari, is objectification women who are depicted to be perennially hankering for the male gaze and invariably getting attracted to men at the end of the narrative. Yet an interesting exception to this is a new advertisement of Horlicks, which portrays the husband as taking care of his wife, who is a doctor fighting the war against the pandemic. The husband is shown diligently cleaning the bottle his wife carries to war and then making the nutritious drink for her. While performing this, he stresses that since his wife is busy as a frontline fighter during this time of COVID, it is his responsibility to ensure that she gets as the right food intake, which will keep her healthy and safe. Such narratives are welcome changes and are indicative of the slow but steady attitudinal transformation taking place in the society. Researcher Roderick also points to such change happening, citing the Sports England's This Girl Can campaign, which shows women without any extraordinary or beautiful features aspiring to and completing extraordinary feats. L'Oreal and other brands are also following suit and devising advertising campaigns which debunks objectification and sexist positioning of women, thereby dismantling long-held stereotypes. Researcher Roderick also mentions the United Nations He for She campaign, which portrays men taking keen interest in issues and challenges being faced by women and trying to find solution for its mitigation. Now I am coming to a very important part of this discussion. That is representation of third gender. Rampant objectification of transgender men and women have also been brought to fore by different studies. Squares and Brewer had drawn attention to misnaming and name-calling of transgender individuals by news channels and news-related programs, and also to attempt of misrepresentation of members of the third sex group. Transgenders have also been with some degree of regularity shown as tricksters who are always on the prowl to seduce heterosexual men or women with nefarious intentions. Sexualizing of the body of a transgender individual to evoke sexual objectification is also common across popular media channels and programs. Such outlook of the media came to prominence in the murder case of Brendan Tina. I hope you all remember that. While reporting on the incident, news media did not hesitate to associate female pronouns with the person, and did they desist from saying the person often referred to as Brendan Tina. Such attempts at misgendering impacts societal outlook towards the transgender community and associates a sense of sexual ambiguity. Association of transgenders with drug performances and all such other activities have been resorted by the media, which is a myopic and skewed approach to interpretation of their issue and problems. That not all drug performers are transgenders is known, and therefore deliberate attempt at such association limits the scope of their identity and acceptance. An interesting study in this context was conducted by GLAAD to commemorate Transgender Awareness Week and Transgender Day of Remembrance. This organization undertook an examination of 102 episodes and storylines of television programs aired since 2002, having characters of third gender. This is a very important study. The exercise concluded that 54% of the storylines and episodes projected transgenders in a negative light, thus nurturing the creation of an adverse impression among viewers about the transgender community and its members. Additionally, 35% of character representations were found to fall within the problematic to good category, implying mixed representation. Only 12% of episodes and storylines contain factual, authentic, and path-breaking depiction of third gender people. The study further notes when programs involving transgender people and aired across different media channels and networks were analyzed for a 10-year period, significant numbers were found to have representation of the third gender, which can be qualified as either offensive or derogatory. The scenario is the same for 7 cable networks, indicating that the problem is not confined to selective platforms but is widely prevalent. In the Indian context, it's a very important thing to discuss. Misrepresentation of transgender people in Tamil cinema was highlighted by the head of Transgender Resource Center. It was reported in the Hindu in 2017. She pointed out, for over 3 decades, Tamil films have highlighted the negatives of the third gender, thereby perpetuating the growth and sustenance of a discriminatory attitude towards them. As such, transgenders have suffered in getting meaningful employment and have been deprived of equal opportunities compared to men in several sectors, including education. This has restricted their educational achievements, adversely impacting their personal and professional growth. Love, emotion, and feelings of transgender people, their yearning for education and quality life and of professional achievements have rarely been dealt upon by the media and filmmakers. This would have helped dismantle deeply entrenched stereotypes was opined by the Transgender Resource Center head. Media's projection leading to people developing mistrust towards the third gender and looking upon them with suspicion and disgust has also been pointed out by the activists. Now, I'll be coming to the last part of my deliberation. That is, now I have discussed everything about importance of like the media and the gender, like gender and society, how these things, are. I mean, individually I have discussed. Now, the thing is that why one should study this? Yes, we all should know about media. We all should know about gender. Of course, we are aware of society. But how to connect these three? And through the SWAM and MOOCs platform, the UGC, what they are trying to attract more and more people to, study this, and why? What are the reasons for that? Basis the discussions actually I had so far, it can be presumed that studying the impact of media on gender and society constitutes a vital area of learning with potential of far-reaching societal impact. Such programs can correct some of the fallacious perceptions and notions being held about women by large sections of global society, which, with time, will facilitate the creation of a better world for women to live and grow in. It will also nurture the development of growth of conducive environment within which women will feel protected, belonged, and productive, and thus will be able to live a life of dignity and respect. It will also aid in interpretation of women for what their contribution to society truly is, rather than objects of gratification and subjects of inhuman treatment and behavior. Romano in 2014 opined that a start has been made in the right direction and is evident from the growing number of research papers, articles, theme-based publications, and opinion pieces which are being produced on the subject. Researcher Ross in 2010 holds that since the media landscape is undergoing several changes, the time is right for propelling the issues of gender representation in media so that pertinent corrective measures can be taken. Cantilli and Martin researchers similarly considered gender studies should be to be a vital point of intervention via which academic curriculum can be made for sensitive and open to diversity, both social and political, which we are witnessing around us. Exposure to such gender sensitive courses will better prepare students to remain open to such changes and have greater acceptance toward them in practical and real life scenario. And like interestingly, even if we cannot do it in our like journalism and mass communication courses, this MOOCs courses, they are actually giving us opportunity to learn such things through their online courses. Researcher Saliburu makes an interesting observation about institutions being given the freedom to prepare their own program modules on gender studies without interference of government bodies and regulatory authorities. Citing the example of European and Spanish universities, which has the opportunity of deviating from mixed models devised by the Ministry of Education to teach what they feel is critical, the researcher argues that if other institutions are also given such freedom and space, it will aid them in focusing on gender issues which are plaguing their immediate society and prepare students to seek rectification of the existing status and scenario. It will also give students in-depth exposure in the current state of affairs and encourage them to contemplate on what can be done to correct the wrong. At an individual level, this will likely have an impact and act in rectifying perceptions within individual students towards the other genders, which is very important. When institutions devise their own programs, closed catalog and hermetic styles can be done away with, and such will be replaced by interdisciplinary approach, which will be more flexible and in tune with internationally followed models in teaching and learning about gender issues. Researcher Pandro stresses the need for shift from content to competency-based model of teaching and learning, which will involve higher degree of practical exposure and training. Students will get the chance to experience what is really happening in their respective societies in the gender domain, and certainly will get more idea than they can be remaining confined to textbooks and content-reliant modules. Researchers Cantilli and Martin state content related to gender studies being a part of course curriculum in different universities globally. It is generally concluded in course on communication and media, communication theory, communication and media ethics, journalism and mass communication, psychology, and such. But these are often sporadic and not satisfactory in depth. Thus, there is a need for addressing the existing gap and doing so urgently. Modules related to gender and its communication via media should be made robust with its societal impacts clarified pronouncedly. Such models should be incorporated into existing communication, media, and gender-related courses, and ideally provide an in-depth exposure to students enrolling for these programs. For example, an online program on this subject offered by Future Learn Clearly tabulates the outcomes student can expect post-completion of the online program. It is claimed that the course will help students in developing an understanding about prime concepts which are involved in learning and understanding how gender is projected by the media and how media reporting can be interpreted by the gender lens. Additionally, students will also be able to comprehend gender inequality vis-a-vis other forms of inequality like sexual, race, and ethnic inequalities. The course provides a global overview of the gender in media issues to students, which in turn will aid them in interpreting the issue in their local periphery. Utilizing the holistic understanding, students will be better understanding the gender and media scenario in their countries of origin, contemplate ways in which the same can be addressed. It also sharpens analytical abilities of attendees and helps them improve critical skill sets through which they can interpret gender representation in contemporary media literature and media research. Further, the course will prepare students to investigate the challenges feminist organizations are facing in conducting their affairs and the kind of opposition they face from mainstream media and its portrayal. Basis such understanding, students can aid feminist organizations in solving roadblocks and also outline the alterations media needs to execute to be of greater assistance to such organizations in mitigating issues of gender discrimination and gender bias. The interdisciplinary and intersectional perspectives part of such programs will help students develop critical insights, and these can find greater applicability in times to come both at the level of media organizations and feminist organizations and movement. Providing such an in-depth exposure to different facets of media and gender relation makes for a holistic and exhaustive learning, expected to stimulate perceptions, alteration within male students, which will have its societal benefits too. Following such educational approaches, a more open and promoting environment can be provided for women, which will enable them to do what they wish to and achieve what they want to. This can go a long way in correcting gender injustice and gender bias across gender and lay the foundation for gender equality and balanced projection of gender issues by the media. So here I also want to mention the way this entire thing has been designed, this course in this society and media, like the way it has been like designed, this entire course. Everything has been dealt in detail, and like students from different corner across the country, if they want to actually have a gender equal society and a gender balanced media, so these are the things actually we all have to be well aware of. And thanks again to the society and media coordinator that they are, and the team, they are trying to reach out to people. And also thanks to them for giving me an opportunity to explain the entire thing as much as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for a very insightful presentation with relatable examples, whether it is related to choice of the academic subjects or women being second fiddle in economic decision making, or concepts like dehumanization and third representation of gender. It was a very relatable and a very insightful lecture, and we all got a lot of new theories, a lot of new ideas on how to view women, how to view male gaze in context of the media. Now, some questions have been posed, so I'll take up the first question. India, being a third world country, has not been able to stop stereotyping till date. Gender studies should have been brought under primary education along with proper sexual education. What are the other steps that the government can take to spread awareness in the rural areas?
Yeah, it's a good question. So thing is that this is actually this is very important, like rural area, when we are talking about rural areas. See, when these things are I think the whoever has asked the question has mentioned that it has to be incorporated in the primary education, right?
Yes.
So if it is there by the government agency, if it is there in the primary education, the proper section is there, I mean sexual education and all, of course that is going across the country, rural area and every, like I mean school to different areas, rural and urban. The thing is that what else can be done? Here, I want to mention one thing. There are few things like I'm not saying about new media here, as you actually whoever has asked the question is mentioning about the rural area. Here, actually, we can take help of the community media in the sense the community radio and the radio per se, and of course, you know, the small the centers. I don't know whether you are aware of the small Tathyamit centers of the different blocks and all. So there are also small programs, maybe videos and audio, and in the form of stories, in the form of photo essays, like this can be also shown. And it's not about only to the students. I think in rural area, this thing has to be shown, or this awareness has to be generated across the age. So in that way, in their language, and folk media can be used also. That is, in fact, we do have such a folk media like system, and through which the very strong medium, different sector of the country, through which we can also reach the rural people.
Okay, next question. We have two similar questions. So they want to ask that women participation is less in regional media when it is compared to the national media. And in national media also, women are confined to anchoring and certain reporting segments, and they are not given other parts or other assignments or other segments. So what is the reason and how to combat that?
No, I didn't get it. What is the question?
Basically, they want to say that women's participation in media is less in rural areas or in smaller cities in compared to the national media or the regional media. Like regional media is also lesser for women, and they are also given some certain kinds of role, like only anchoring or certain segments of reporting. Maybe they want to say that soft beats are given to women, then hard reporting. So, what is the reason and how to combat that?
Actually, you know, the reason, of course, as I was telling throughout my lecture, that the gender stereotyping and the way we look into the gender roles. I mean, I'm sorry to say the state I'm from, that West Bengal, there's a very like regional media house, prominent media house. They don't want women reporters in their system, and proudly they announce it in their advertisements. The females, they don't need to. They're not needed in the system. So this is the scenario. And one more thing is there, that if they take the women as journalists and the reporter, so you know what will happen, they think that maybe that lady, after joining the work and all, she will get married. So once she gets married, she will be taking more leave than the male counterpart. And after marriage, she'll be having babies, so she'll be maybe she'll be getting she'll be asking for this maternity leave, and then of course childcare leave. So most of the media houses, they don't like it, and of course they mean business. Yeah, they do have policies and all. I'm not generalizing, but basically these are the things. uh, I mean, this is my opinion, absolutely. But at the same time, let me also tell you, I don't know who asked this question, whether they have heard about the this thing, this Khabar Lahariya,
Yes.
Khabar Lahariya channel. Please go through, I mean, Google it and go through what women's are doing and in a absolutely semi-rural area, what they are doing. They're doing wonders actually, and it's all all women thing. I mean, I'm starting from everything they are doing. They're reporting, they're editing, they're airing things, they are going places, and they're challenging. I mean, facing all the challenges. So yes, exceptions are there. There are a few organizations also. I also belong to such organization where we give priority to such issues, and we try to encourage the independent filmmakers that also come in the media. I'm not talking about the mainstream media. So like film media I'm talking about. And yes, one thing I think was there, that anchoring.
Yeah.
Yeah, anchoring. Yeah, of course, pretty face in the anchors as anchors, and maybe more sellable. So we all know this.
Uh, since you talked about multidisciplinary approach to gender, so what all needs to be incorporated in the multidisciplinary approach to gender, and what is lacking in the context of India?
I think I have already mentioned it, multidisciplinary area, this like psychology, then sociology, journalism, mass communication, communication, political science, even. So all this. And what was the latter part of the question?
What is lacking in the Indian context?
Thing is that I should not see that something is lacking. See, that's why we are discussing here. Why we are here today, all of us, like, and the way government is also trying to reach out to many people, and to and if I am not wrong, should be, you can correct me, like in this society and media course, it's not only the people from journalism and the gender studies, they have contributed. I think many people, different subjects, they contributed here, and of course, it's an interdisciplinary approach in that way. So of course, efforts have been made, and in that case, in case of India, if you, yeah, maybe we have started a bit late, but yes, we are trying.
uh, we have talked about how films are creating a stereotype for third gender, but do you think that films can also create sensitization and awareness regarding the transgender issues?
Of course, of course. I do believe that. I can talk about my own students. I teach in a university. I have got a lot of students, and I know that they do think about it. Maybe when I initiate such discussion in the class and all. And one thing I always tell them, which I actually, I mean, I'm so rather you can say angry. I'm very angry about it. How can we describe? There is no pronoun in the English grammar to describe. We have he for male, we have she for female. What is the pronoun? So it starts from there. So, if we can motivate the youngsters, if and through these courses and all, and if they can prepare, I know many of my students, they have brought up such issues and they talk about it. They even they have open Facebook pages. They have gone to Twitter and even the LinkedIn pages also. So they are writing about it. So we all can do this we can all do our own bit. I can motivate two students, those two students, they can motivate four friends, those four friends, they can motivate their friends. So in this way, we have to take the onus. So in that way, of course, making films, posting on social media, so these things help actually to some extent, but it helps.
Okay. Media thrives on creating gender bias primarily due to market model. How do you think it will comply in creating counter spaces to depict gender in a neutral manner?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Okay. Media thrives on creating gender bias primarily because because of the market model.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe their customer is the male who has the economic power. So, how do you think it will comply in creating counter spaces to depict gender in a neutral manner? You talked about that Horlicks ad, but there are very few ads like that.
Yeah, actually, see, thing is that this process is going on. It's not, time has not yet come actually to comment on this. Maybe it's going through the entire thing, the way things are. And one more thing, I'm maybe I'm repeating this. Why we all are here? So this one thing we have to keep in our mind, like, and if I'm not wrong, that many people, many few people, those who are attending these courses and those who are, applying to these courses, they will be also joining media with such enlightenment. So time, I think it will take time, and it's not. And I think in my presentation also I mentioned it. If you have listened to it like carefully, I have already mentioned and I give an example also. Please go through it once more.
Okay. I think we have this much time only for today. Thank you so much, ma'am, for that question answer session, for the very nice presentation, the contemporary examples that you took. So it became very easier to understand what you were trying to talk about, the concepts that you were trying to explain, how they are also relevant in contemporary society. And thank you so much. I also thank all our learners for joining us on time, and we expect you to see you in the event 2, which will start at 2:30 p.m. today. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.